Hey everyone, Tuesday night, getting back to zero. Glad everyone is with you. I am back in town. I decided to give my veil hat a rest for the night, but had a fantastic wedding out. Some of you guys saw some of the stuff I posted. I guess I really kind of practiced everything that we talk about having a plan, having a toolkit with you at all times. And I practiced what I did, and it came in very handy. I think accountability was the key. I was on the phone with a lot of people. I did a good job of telling on myself just to make sure that I could be held accountable and necessary, but I made a lot of phone calls, had lots of Diet Pepsi with me, and had a extremely good time. Saw Vail is, if you're not riding a bike or skiing, you're drinking in that city. And there was a lot of that going on, but I wasn't one of them. And I just had a blast. The wedding was great. I enjoyed the wedding. I enjoyed seeing my wife's face in the morning without seeing that disappointing look that I've seen years past. It was just a huge freedom from just all the worrying about how I was going to get my alcohol or my beer, how I was going to sneak it, how I was going to hide it, where I was going to, all the different things. It was just so nice to not have to be carrying all that CRAP around with me, that baggage that just was, it was freedom. I enjoyed things that I never think I ever would have enjoyed before. So that was a good one. But tonight we do have the panel back. I'm thrilled that everyone is here. I'm going to unpin myself and bring in the group. We got Kate, say hi.
Hey.
And we got Mark somewhere around there. Mark's on the patio soaking up some sun. And Sherri has joined us, first timer. We're glad to have you, Sherri.
Hi.
Lee and Todd. Todd, good to see you. And Lee, are you going to break out in song or something right now?
No.
Okay, he had his guitar. Lee is our resident headbanger, lead singer of a band, and someday we're going to get you to play. But anyways, all right, well, look, here is the deal. We're going to go just panel discussion tonight. I have some questions that kind of I've been jotting down. I'll just start in order. We'll start with Kate and then let everyone just kind of open it up and wherever you want to go with them, whatever. But I'm going to start off with Kate. I want to ask you, what did you expect from sobriety that did not materialize, if anything? Was there anything that you thought it was going to be that did not? And if you want to just let someone else jump in first, some of these are a little more thought-provoking.
Yeah, to be honest, all I cared about was stopping drinking. And I didn't have any thoughts about what I thought it would be. I struggled with denial, and I had to land on the fact that I couldn't safely drink. And once I went from there, I knew I could never drink. So it was a matter of, that was really the journey. And whatever I could do in meetings or whatever I was suggested of me to do, connect with people, call your sponsor, go to meetings. That's what I did. I just listened and paid attention and did what I was told. So I didn't really have any expectation, to be truthful. I just took it day by day. I didn't know what to expect from sobriety. I just knew that I was unhappy. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I was lonely, and all those things disappeared once I did get sober. So I can look back at all the things that weren't so well and know that they all turned around. So I didn't have any expectations.
Anyone else have any expectations that maybe didn't materialize or turned out differently than they thought?
Yeah, Jeff, I expected sobriety to be incredibly difficult. I expected it to be like a white knuckle struggle every day, if not impossible. And that did not materialize for me. As I did what I was told in IOP, and as I started to go to AA meetings and build a daily program of sobriety, hard at times, yes. Super difficult, I would, in my experience, no.
Were there parts that were more difficult than you
Oh,
expected, and others that were easier than you expected?
Yeah, I think the things that were more difficult than I expected were, relational things with folks that I'd hurt. Um, I was hoping to, maybe at the beginning, I was hoping to put a Band-Aid over things, kind of put like the "Hey, I'm sober" Band-Aid on something. But as I got into my program, I realized that I had some character defects that didn't have a whole lot to do with me drinking. Stuff that was there before I started drinking, and stuff that I've been sifting through afterwards. So I would say that working through relationships and getting used to knowing how to navigate relationships, especially the people that I love that I hurt, that was difficult. The part for me personally that was less difficult was just not drinking. And I can't explain why. It just was. One day I could not stop drinking, and a couple of days later I had stopped. I think I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up. I think early on someone said something to me that changed a lot of things for me. I kept saying in IOP, I realize now that I can never drink again. I can't ever drink again. And my counselor said, "Hey, you keep saying you realize that you can't drink again. I just want you to know that you don't have to ever drink again." And for me, that was a huge paradigm shift from like, I can't do this thing to I no longer have to do this thing that I've done every day for, 6-7 years at that time. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Sherri, what scared you the most about sobriety? And I'm talking, in your before you started or when you first started. What scared you the most about it?
Spent a long time worried about keeping my anonymity. I'm a retired teacher, but when I realized that I needed to do something about my drinking, I was still teaching, and I just didn't see any way in the world I was going to go to some church basement somewhere and admit that I was an alcoholic in front of my fellow townspeople. I mean, everybody knows me, and it was just something I couldn't wrap my head around. And it wasn't until I admitted I am an alcoholic and I have to have help that I was able to, to actually do it. And luckily I had TLC, and, this isn't the same as AA. I have been to an AA meeting or two, and they were good, but this has just been a perfect fit, and I don't care about being anonymous anymore. I mean, I'm pretty out there with my choice, and I'm very proud of it.
Is it easier to be not anonymous?
Yeah, it's so much easier.
What's the benefit of that?
Well, I mean, it keeps me straight for one thing. I mean, I feel like I'm holding myself accountable. I'm not worried that I'm going to cheat, that I'm going to drink, but it just, I don't know. It's a pride thing, really. I'm pleased to tell people that I'm sober. Today's 11 months, and man, in one more month, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be a happy day.
Todd, what was I guess what scared you the most about sobriety when you were starting?
There were a lot of little things, but I'd say one of the bigger things was it was such a part of my identity, and such a big part of my life, that I thought I was very unnerved by the idea of moving forward without alcohol. It was hard to imagine. It was hard to envision. It was hard to, I couldn't conceptualize, vacations and birthdays and social gatherings and work stuff. And I just I couldn't put that together with alcohol not being a part of it. I just didn't know how to. It was like trying to ask me to imagine life without clothes. And it was like, it was a big part of my identity. I was like, I liked drinking. It was fun. Some of it was. And I thought it was something I needed a lot more than I did. And I thought it was something that was going to be a lot harder to live without than it turned out to be. But I have a saying that none of the bad things happen. I had this whole list of things in my head bad things that I thought were going to happen if I gave up alcohol, and they didn't happen.
Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, it was, I thought my friends would I didn't think I was going to lose my friends. But I thought people would want to stop hanging out with me. I thought we would stop being invited to social stuff. And a little bit of that has happened. With certain groups of people where, drinking is, the main fixture. I thought it'd be boring. I thought I would have much less fun. I thought I wouldn't enjoy things that had always been connected to drinking for me. And, not only has none of that been true, but as I think you found out this last weekend in Vail, like all those things I thought I wouldn't enjoy without alcohol, I enjoy so much more without alcohol now, which blows my mind. But it's true. And it's so great to discover that stuff. So none of those things happen. In fact, it was the opposite. It's been the opposite. But boy, in the moment, those seem like very big things, and they seem like insurmountable things. And some of it's stuff, at least for me, that I told myself, so I wouldn't have to confront possibly giving up drinking. But man, they seem like such big hurdles at the time, and now they don't. But at the time they do.
Mark?
Yeah.
What scared you most about sobriety? The thought of sobriety.
Honestly, near the end, I wasn't thinking about it at all because I had given up. I didn't even think I could ever stop, so I stopped thinking about what happened without alcohol. But I think initially, years ago, what scared me was people finding out who I was, right? I spent so much time hiding who I was. I didn't want to give that up. And that didn't work for me before. When I went to treatment and went to meetings years ago, I didn't tell anybody. There was only a select few people that knew. I was scared of people. I think I was scared of myself finding out about myself. I was just scared to find out, who I really was, and was I this bad of a person? And of course, I didn't want, I thought those things. So I didn't want everybody else to find out either. So I took I worked a lot to keep it under wraps. So this time, I had to do it different. I had to not be scared about it anymore, because I just didn't want to live there anymore. Once I was given the gift of surviving, I didn't want to live there anymore. And I'm so glad that I'm not there anymore. It's just, I had no idea what a sober world actually could be. It's like, I always thought it was about not drinking, and I couldn't stop that. So I didn't know what else was going to happen. I didn't have any expectations, honestly, when this journey started. I just knew I didn't want to drink anymore once I was able to stop, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. So I just had to do something completely opposite and just talk to people. And like I said, I didn't really have any expectations this time, because I didn't expect to be there. I didn't
Were there
expect to be
any,
alive.
and I'll just, we can just start jumping in, were there any preconceived notions you had about recovery that you just had to say, you know what, screw it, I'll try? And I think obviously the God word is probably the number one, but was there anything that you had to say, I don't agree with it, but I'm at a point, you know what? I guess for me, I remember, I got nowhere else to go. I'll give it a shot. I'll give this a shot. I may not agree with it, but I'll give it a try. Anything for anyone?
Jeff, I don't know if this is what you had in mind with your question, but one thing I had in my head that held me back was I was afraid of what people would think about that my drinking was worse than it was if I quit. And I was hung up on, well, everything looks fine from the outside. I don't need to quit. It's not that bad. People that need to quit are, crashing their cars and the police are showing up at their house and they're losing their jobs. And if I quit, people are going to think that's what that I was rolling out of bed and picking up a liter of vodka off of my bedside table. And that's how I was starting my day. And I was paranoid about that and hung up on that for a while until I one day came to the realization, it doesn't matter what my drinking looks like on the outside. It's a problem for me, and it's a problem that's causing issues in my life, and it's causing issues in my personal life, and I want to do something about it. And I still worried about kind of what people would think, but not as much. And now I don't care at all. I honestly don't care if someone thinks I was waking up and drinking vodka at 9 a.m. I don't care anymore. But that held me back for a while. And some of that surely was me convincing myself, trying to talk myself into not giving up alcohol. But that held me back. The whole idea of the type of person that needs to give it up, which, I've completely changed my thinking on that, obviously now. But that held me back for a while.
Kate, you seem like that you are your way. You've got some independence I love and totally respect about you. Was there anything that you were told that you wanted to say, take this and what with it, that you finally said, okay, I'm willing to try?
Well, here's the thing. I had 2 stints in my 20s and my 30s. And once you get some AA in you, it never leaves. Once you know about what an alcoholic acts like, looks like, talks like. So for me, I have issues with the language, the beating down of the ego. For me, I don't think personally myself or women in general need to tell ourselves that we're powerless. I can never drink again. It's the attitude, the harsh attitude is what I object to, and I still object to. I object to some of the language in AA, but what I've also learned is take what you like and leave the rest. What I love about TLC is TLC has made me grow more as a person in a much broader way, not with any dogma. No issue with the dogma. It's a wonderful foundation, but I needed to grow more because it's been I've been sober since 2009. So that's why I kind of can't remember some of the stuff like in the beginning. But so that's what I've had to land on, is take what I like and leave the rest. I'm strong-willed. So learning to work with sponsors and let them lead and having it really being humble about it, really saying, I don't know as much as I think I know. I can have my thoughts about things. And I'm also a healer, so I have a lot of that whole holistic approach to it as well. So I'm not the program poster child for AA because I'm pretty eclectic in my view of healing. So, but I've really had to exercise, take what you like and leave the rest, and be grateful for everything you get, every place, TLC, AA, healings, all of it, I feel like it's a very large sphere of how we can grow and stay sober. Totally. And one thing I'll say is I have a wedding coming up in October, and I have a new attitude since TLC. Eric talks about being a badass. Well, I think I'm a sober badass. And when I go to that wedding, it's like, this is a brilliant idea that I don't drink. I've done reading, and it's like, you all are drinking ethyl alcohol and you're poisoning your body. And I'm not. I'm going to feel good tomorrow at the breakfast after the wedding. I'm actually going to feel good from the Friday night before the wedding. I just went to a party. It was like, I was so present with people. I was like so happy. I gave them the best hugs. I was in such a state of love, and instead of numbing. And I was a little nervous. I hadn't been to a party in a while, but I learned, I did some breathing. I listened to some classical music on the way there. I did some talking to my higher power. And then I just arrived and I was grounded. And that was never the case drinking. It was just like, get the buzz on. That was the point. It wasn't like you're sitting in front of me and I love you or I like you and I just want to know how you're doing and what's going on. What a gift sobriety is. So that's how I feel now. I don't feel ashamed. I don't have any of that shame about, alcoholism. And I'm not about being anonymous. I'm a grateful, sober woman, and that's it, And I think that we're all badasses and we're pretty brilliant to put it down. And that's my attitude. And hey, you do what you do. You just don't know as much maybe as I do. That I don't mean to be egotistical, but I'm just saying that's the way I'm going to travel from functions from now on, is that brilliant idea not to drink. Absolutely brilliant.
It's amazing the marketing that since, I look back in the olden days when weddings were a celebration, and the marketers of alcohol have turned weddings into, it is just as important to have flowers on the table is to have massive amounts of booze. And they did a very good job, and they've made a lot of money on that. Of course, I took that bait. So Sherri, what about you? Anything that you had any preconceived notions that you had to say, you know what, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I'm going to give it a shot?
Actually, yes, and something that I'm still kind of maneuvering, the fact that my spouse is a very heavy drinker. So I knew that I had to do something, and he was supportive of that. But I knew it was going to be really hard doing this by myself, right? So, and it has been, and it continues to be. But I also think, I know that Sherri 2.0 has made some improvements in this house also, because it's not that he wants what I have. He wants to keep drinking, but he sees the good that it's done me, and he's backed off a lot. So that's still, kind of a challenge to do this and continue on with our very social lifestyle. Everybody else is doing it and I'm not, but I have done it, and I can, and I think I'm setting a pretty good example. So, but that's something I still have to, day by day, I'm still working on that one.
Lee, I imagine as being a rock star that's used to just partying every night, you had to give up certain things. That lifestyle, was that difficult for you to make those changes and try it?
Well, first of all, in your mind, I'm a rock star, but I guarantee you I am not.
Compared to how I sing and how I play an instrument, I think
play
I'm looking
music.
at 5 rock stars right now.
I play music at churches, so this is no rock star.
Yeah.
But when I got sober, I was playing in like 3 bands at the time in Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the very first things I had to deal with was the question of can I gig? Can I play out? And my therapist at the time in the IOP program said, we could talk about everything. Nothing's off the table, but you have to put sobriety first if you want this to work. And I listened to her and I said, okay. So I contacted all 3 of my bands, told them where I was at, very open and honest. One of them, love those guys. They were like, man, we are right here with you and anything we can do to help. And I'll never forget the first time I played out with them about 60 days into sobriety. And I was nervous, but I had a plan. My sponsor and I had a plan of like, I'm not going to go hang out at the bar for 2 hours before the show. And, I'll hit sound check and then run and get some pizza and call him and do my set and call him and check out the next set and call him, lots of calling him. And, it was so cool that night. The band didn't drink that night, and I didn't ask them to do that. And in fact, I was like, guys, you don't have to do that. And they were like, we're not drinking tonight, bro. Like, and that was so cool. So I think that's to say, like, kind of finding like who your tribe is in sobriety. It's not always just the people in basements of churches at meetings. It's not always people in recovery, but there are a lot of people who addictions never actually touch their personal life, like they haven't dealt with it. But it turns out a lot of those folks in the band, one of them was kind of wondering about himself at times. Another one of them had been touched by addiction in their life, family members. So yeah, there's a tribe out there to find if you're open and honest about where you're at in life.
I was approached this weekend. We had a large extended family, so if anyone's watching, good luck trying to figure out who it was. But I was approached by some people that, the questions you could tell where they were going with them, and it was fantastic to be there and to just discuss without judgment, because I know when I was in those shoes, everyone was going to judge me about everything, which is not the case, but in my mind, that's how it was. Quicker one, when you started this, did you initially give up alcohol for yourself or for someone else? And has that changed? And I will answer that first, because I've always heard you need to do this for yourself. And I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to all of you if I didn't have family as my reason for doing this. I think if I was alone, I was content to, not that I wanted to die by any stretch, but I would have been content to just drink myself to whatever happened. I don't think, and now I feel like I have a reason. I enjoy living more than I did. I have a purpose. I have focus. I have dreams again. So now I'm probably doing this more for me, but that scares me about myself. I don't know if I'd been single and didn't have a family or loved ones pushing me. I don't know if I would have done it. In fact, I don't think I would have done it without something a lot worse happening to me. But anyways, did you do this for yourself or others? And what's changed? Is it the same?
The first time for me, I wasn't doing it for myself. I didn't think I was the problem. 6 years ago, I went to treatment because I wanted to save my marriage, but I always had it in the back of my mind that I could drink again. And I did. I would make it 3 months here and a month there and another month here. But I was always in the back of my mind thinking that I was going to drink again. Like it wasn't to stop drinking back then. It was to get people off my back. So because of that, I stayed drinking for years after. until it finally about killed me. Once it almost killed me and put my ass in the hospital, at that point I realized, you know what, this has to be for me. You know, I made a decision to turn my life around for me, and it's been the best decision I ever made. You know, but the first time I didn't realize, you know, my kids didn't stop me. You know, my wife, that didn't stop me. I ended up getting divorced, and everything went down the tubes because I was never the problem. I wasn't doing it for me, until there was nothing left but me, and me and my bottle, and that was it. And the bottle was about to win. So at that point, yeah, this time I had to do it for me, and it's made all the difference.
Jeff, I've had the same conversation with myself about, you know, if I was a single guy without a wife and kids, you know, living by myself, would I have done this? And because I was talking to my therapist about this, and you know, my drinking didn't change a whole lot over the years. I've been a remarkably consistent drinker with my drinking issues over the years. What changed was, you know, I went from single guy to engaged to husband to having kids to kind of moving on in my career, and my circumstances around me changed, and the consequences of my drinking were different and were greater, and my kids started getting older, and I started thinking about all that stuff more. And I can't tell you how many times I thought to myself, like, insert my age at the time, like a 35-year-old adult male with children should not be getting as drunk as you're getting. I said that to myself, I don't know how many times. And so I kind of had that same, I don't know if I would have. And in fact, when I first started really examining my drinking was in 2013. And the reason I did that was because I was starting to feel like it was affecting my marriage, and it wasn't a major issue, but it felt like something that was going to become a major issue if I didn't do something about it. And so the whole impetus for even looking at my drinking at all was my marriage. And you know, at that time, Mark, kind of what you said, it certainly wasn't going to stop. I just wanted to fix things. I needed to learn how to drink differently. So, you know, that was 2013. You know, I ended up giving it up almost 2 years ago. So I had a lot of time where I was trying to fix things and trying to convince myself I could fix things. But and by the time I got to giving it up, it was definitely for myself. I knew it would have positive repercussions everywhere, but it was for myself. But the original impetus to even kind of look myself in the mirror and say, you've got some issues you need to look at, was my marriage. So, you know, I don't honestly, I don't think it really matters much at the end of the day what gets you there. I do think you have to do it for yourself, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's got to, that's what will sustain it. I don't think doing it for someone else usually is sustainable at the end of the day. But, you know, what gets you to that point, you know, who cares?
Sherri, Kate.
You
Well,
know, Jeff, oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Sherri.
Kate.
No, you go. I don't have much to say.
I don't either. When I think about this, I think I'm very much like you, Jeff, that I don't know. I mean, if I was alone, it would be different. And that scares me.
Yeah,
I still feel that way, you know, if I didn't have my family, I would be very tempted. I drank alone a lot, but you know, as far as knowing when I needed to do something, I was just so sick and tired of myself. I heard Laura McCowan say once, when she got to that point, she knew she was just so far out of integrity with herself. And I love that phrase, because I was like, yeah, that's where I was too. I was just sick of myself. So that was my reason.
It's interesting, and Kate, I want to hear from you, but it as strong as I feel with my program right now, and I've got about a year and a half, as strong as I feel, I also, is it because I have a family local that are all gonna, shred me to pieces if they see me with a drink in hand? There's a lot of things that scare me, even though I'd like to think it's because of my my decisions and my discipline and my practice, which I know are all true. But I also, it was I just worry about it. It's like, Sherri, what you just said. If I was suddenly alone and I knew I could completely get away with it, I'd be nervous. And then I think, so is my program even solid right now? I don't, I would think on the surface it is, but when I ask myself that question, and pray to God I never lose my wife and my kids, but if suddenly I was alone, I don't know. And that scares the living out of me. Kate, what were you going to say?
Well, it's interesting because I think you'd be surprised, Jeff, just to answer you, because I think that all of us have this. Well, I was alone. I did it for myself. I'm a pretty conscious person. I'm a thinker, and I'm observant. I was observant to a point, right? To the point that I could be conscious that it wasn't right. I was walking downtown one day and I heard the words, "Don't drink." And I was like pissed off, like, what the hell? I was like, that was insulted. I was like, are you kidding me? Now I have my wine at night? Like, you gotta be nuts. Like, I didn't know where that came from, but it stuck with me, it stuck with me. And the things that I learned in AA, and it just stayed, they say AA ruins your drinking. It does. Because you hear all this stuff. You just see these amazing people who were sober forever and having wonderful lives, and all of it. Like, if you're going to buy a shirt, you're going to buy 5 in different colors, like more is better. So, that was inside of me. And so if I had any inkling of consciousness, I could look at my behavior, and I don't even know what the tipping point was that did it for me. Because I did things like drinking and driving and going on the internet and trying to figure out how many drinks I could have without getting caught. What the hell is that? That's nuts. I mean, sure, it's a brilliant idea, but it's not a brilliant idea. It's pretty selfish. It's pretty dumb. It's not. I mean, in my screwed up brain, I'm thinking, oh, this is a good idea.
I never did anything like that. No, never.
I didn't want to get caught. It's not that I didn't care. I didn't care about the other person or harming them. So selfish. So selfish.
The one thing I will say in my defense is that I've had a couple of times when Elizabeth has left town for the weekend to visit folks or with the kids. And I was always a little hesitant and nervous. But as soon as she left, I'm fine. And I was good. So maybe I do have what you're saying. The basis is it was always, I think I was most nervous thinking about her leaving. Would I be strong enough? And then when she did, I was okay. I never really struck. So maybe that you just kind of made me feel a little bit better about my program. Lee, did you do this for yourself, or did you initially, or someone else? How did that evolve for you?
Yeah. Well, one thing quickly that I wanted to say, kind of in response to what you all were just talking about, it just reminds me how grateful I am that this is a one day at a time thing. When I first got sober, I really took offense to the one day at a time talk, because I'm like, dude, I need way more than one day of sobriety. I need years of sobriety. It's going to take me so long to like build that trust and make amends and all that stuff. But when those thoughts of like, for me, the thought is like, what would it take? what would it take for me to say, forget it, you know? And I hope that I hope that nothing had that ability, but I don't have to know what it's going to take, because today I'm pretty confident I'm not going to drink tonight. And tomorrow morning I'm going to hit a meeting and talk to some sponsees throughout the day. Pretty sure I'm not going to drink tomorrow. And that's all I need. Just the confidence in like 24 hours, you know? But the question you asked reminded me of when I first got sober. I wrote myself an email for the first like 200 days or something like that. And really it was like at nighttime when I couldn't sleep and I was, you know, not wanting to drink and my wife was asleep. And so I would sit down and type myself an email, kind of a journal. And one of the things I said early on was, it was something like, I expect that I'm going to have to find many more reasons to stay sober, but for tonight, let this be the reason, that I never have to hear my wife say I was afraid in our marriage again. You know, that's not to say I quit because of that, just because of my wife, but there were definitely people in my life that I loved dearly that, you know, they had a foot out the door, you know, my brother, my wife, other people that I had hurt and stolen from and, you know, really done wrong to. And so, yes, I wanted to get sober for myself, but I didn't believe I could be sober for myself, you know? So for me, doing it for other people made sense to me the first little bit. And then, you know, within 30 days, I'd say, I got a sponsor and started to work a program. And that's when I started to like realize, okay, this is good for me too, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the same with me. I did this for someone else, but initially, but I was the one that, and I know they got the rewards as well, but I got the bulk of them. You know, I was the one that really was fortunate for making that choice. So it was a win-win across the board. And the more I did it, the more I wanted, hey, I want more of this. You know, I don't mind looking at that guy in the mirror. I don't look at him and just with you pathetic piece of, you know what, that I used to see in the mornings. And now I don't mind looking at him. He's still got a long ways to go. He still ticks me off about a lot of things, but I don't despise him like I did. So that's all. Sherri, I think let me ask you this, Sherri. And I come from an AA background, and I don't push any program. I don't bash any, whatever works for you. So forgive me for asking this question, but obviously the answer is yes, but your thoughts on going through recovery or pursuing sobriety without a structured program. And I guess I speak from AA. You know, I pursue anything and everything right now to enhance and grow my program. Personally, I needed the structure of AA when I first got sober. I needed someone to tell me this is what, and I'm not talking the 12 steps. I'm talking, this is what you're going to do. Step one, then you're going to do this, and you're going to do, I needed an instruction manual to do this. Some people don't. Your thoughts on that?
TLC was just what I needed. I mean, I'd seen a therapist for a couple of years, but I didn't really want to quit, you know? I mean, I went to her for my problem with my addiction, but until I admitted that I was an alcoholic, I couldn't go forward. And then when I decided I was ready to go forward, I knew I couldn't do it by myself. And I'd read Laura's book and a couple others, and TLC popped up, and I just knew that was my answer. And while it's not a structure like AA, it's enough of one that, gosh, it has saved my life. It has given me just what I needed.
Did you try to do this on your own without?
No, I don't think that I could have. And TLC made me want it more too. You know, I saw people like you and Todd and I saw what you had, and I thought, hey, this is pretty good. I think I'd like to have that too. And it just encouraged me to keep going.
Mark?
Jeff, I was kind of the opposite of you. When I went into Narcotics Anonymous rooms years ago, I think it was the whole structure that really tripped me up, because I thought I had to do A, B, and C. I was told, I had to do A, B, and C if I wanted to feel D. And if I didn't do A, B, and C correctly, I would never feel D no matter what. And when I couldn't go through, when I didn't feel like I was doing the steps correctly, when I wasn't doing it fast enough, when I had a sponsor on my butt telling me, hey, you got to get that done, that's when I shut down, and I would start, turning around and be like, well, screw that. I'm gonna start drinking on the way home from meetings now. I'm gonna show you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what changed this time is, like Sherri said, when I came into TLC gave me, all it did was it gave me a forum to be heard. That's basically what happened for me. Is it just gave me a forum to be. I finally had some place where I could speak openly, without any shame, without any judgment that I felt. There may not have been judgment before in the rooms, but that's not what I felt. So I finally felt that I had found a room that I could go into and not be told what to do, but just share my experience and then listen to other people and take what I need, because that's what happens in those rooms. Is we're not allowed to tell each other what to do. All we do is just speak our experience, and we just take that from each other. And I hear other people talk about their lives, and I say, oh, well, that might work for me, or that doesn't work for me. I may try that, or I may try this, but nobody's in there telling me, Mark, you have to do this to feel this way. And that's what changed for me. Is now I didn't have that pressure of trying to hold to a schedule, to something. It was just show up every day, get a community, get connection, find people, and that's what I did. So I found people to talk to every day. Early on, I grabbed onto some people really tightly when I needed them, and we became like a family. I found my little group at the beginning, and when I did that, all of a sudden I didn't need a meeting. I didn't need to share at a meeting every day. I could share with my friends now that I just made in that group that know everything about me already. And that's where I'm at, and that's where I was at.
I think the beauty of that is that we're luckily at a point in time where we have those options, where whatever you're looking for is out there. If you're, I needed the structure. I didn't know where to go or what to do. So I needed that. That's what worked for Jeff. And now I'm at a point where I need more on top of that, or I want more on top of that. So where we can, I think we can find, we can tailor fit for ourselves what works. Todd, what was your thought? Did you need the structure, or were you kind of?
I like my routines. I normally respond well to structure. I did not go to AA. I did this on my own for, I think it was like the first 6 months. And I thought it was fine. And I was very, this last time started out as I had prior like 3 month sabbaticals where I just kind of did a reset. And so I was doing that again, but I knew it was different. And then at some point during the first 3 months, I committed to 6 months. And then at some point between that 3 and 6 month mark, I said out loud to my wife, I'm like, which I knew this was coming. I said, I need to give up alcohol forever. And that was when I decided I was giving it up forever. And so I was doing that all on my own. And at that time, it was very much a kind of, I set a goal. I'm going to do it. I committed to it. I'm going to do it. And I remember at one point during all this, my therapist said, she said, you're doing this alone. You need a community. And at the time I was like, no, it's fine. I've got this. I'm not having, really strong urges to drink. I'm doing fine. And then it just so happened right around that time, I think she actually gave me Laura's book to read. I read Laura's book, which I just devoured. I think I literally nodded along to the entire book. And, you know, Laura has a way of like taking all the crap in my head and like putting words to it on a page. And I can't tell you how many things I read and thought, yes, that's what's going through my head. And so it just so happened right around that same time was when TLC started up, and I said, what the heck? And so started doing that, and it didn't take very long where I thought, you know, okay, this is what my therapist was talking about. And it's the connection is just, I'm a big connection person anyway, but I think in something like recovery, connection is so huge. It's so helpful. And you get on those Zooms and you hear people talk, and no matter how different their background is or their story is or the details, there's always a common tie somewhere in there. And it just makes you realize, it just makes you feel like, you know, it was, looking back, even though I thought I was doing fine, and maybe I was, I don't know, but it was lonely. And TLC or any sort of community, whether it be AA or TLC or whatever, is to me the opposite of lonely. And it makes a huge difference. And I go kind of in and out of how much of that stuff I absorb, just kind of based on what I feel like I need. But man, I never regret doing something like this, Jeff. I never regret hopping on a TLC meeting. I never regret talking to someone. It never. And I don't think there's been an interaction I've had where I haven't gotten done with it and thought, I learned something useful from that interaction. It's just, I think it's what makes the world go round. I really do. And I got to a point where I felt a really strong pull to want to help people, because I was so helped by people sharing their stories and reading their stories and talking to them about it. I just wanted to return the favor in some small way if I could, because all of that stuff is so helpful. And you're right. We're very lucky to live in a time and place where, you know, all that stuff is available to you depending on what you're looking for. Because I mean, can you imagine doing this when this stuff wasn't available? I mean,
no, and that's, you know, and I am, like I said, I come from an AA background, and AA did me a lot of good. I'm still involved with it, but I also, there's things about AA that I don't feel I get. You know, I'm looking for the complete package, and you know, a group like a TLC or coming on with I got my base, my foundation in AA, but now I want to pick and choose and adapt a program for me. I needed that structure. I did. That's what worked for Jeff initially. Now I'm finding that what's going to keep me is this over here, and I need a little bit of this over here, and I need some of that over there. So now I'm at the point where I'm looking, I like you, I love talking to, and I think that's why this, you know, I call this a non-denominational group, and it's not a religious thing. It's just meaning this is not, you know, back to zero TLC. They are not anything about any one particular stuff. It's sobriety support, and it's finding what works for you, because I guarantee you, my program, it works great for Jeff right now. It will not work necessarily for Sherri or for Mark or for you, and it shouldn't. It's tailored for me, and what's going to work for you is what's going to work for you, and that's what we have to have. And inside a structure where you will only have, you know, a line of choices, that works for some people, worked for me at the beginning, but now I need variety, and I need to pick and choose to keep it fresh for me. So here's the one that I struggled with this weekend, and we got a little time left, but I just want to close out. When I was down in Vail, I was having some great moments, some this is fantastic. And then that little bird says, but you know what? Wouldn't it be better, even better, if you had alcohol? And that ticks me off because I wonder, life is good. I'm having a great time. Why am I thinking, but it would even be better if I added alcohol, which is not going to be the case. But when am I going to be satisfied? You know, I was on a gondola. I don't know if I did a little thing on a gondola, the breeze, it was the view. I was alone. So I had Jeff time. It was perfect. My blood pressure was almost too low. And I still had this little, but you know what? To have a cold 12-pack next to you. Wait a minute. Stop. Why do you need that? But it still pops into my head. So why is that? Why? Now it went away. It did go away, but it still frustrates. Like, why can't I be happy with a good situation? Kate, I'll let you solve the.
I think that goes away, Jeff. Like in the beginning, it would be like, I'd be upset about something and I immediately go like automatic reaction. Like, your brain's going like, I'm going to have a drink. And then first time I'd never forget where I was, what was going on. And I go, oh, I don't do that anymore. So that's a great response when it comes up. We don't know why. Like I had a friend who had 33 years sobriety, sober. She drank. And then it was really hard for her to come back. She just thought it was an okay idea. So, but I will say this about them, that their attitude about AA wasn't good. They weren't connected to people and they weren't going to meetings. And I'm not saying like the AA says all that stuff, you got to do that. So bottom line, like Todd was talking, was like connection. So you got to be connected to people and you got to have some good old, whatever it takes that you get from a TLC meeting, a refuge recovery meeting, which is like Buddhist philosophy, which is out there, or TLC or AA, right? It's like, I feel like you always have to be feeding. I'll speak for myself, my mind with positive things. Like I go online, if I'm having a bad day, I'll just pick a speaker and I'll just go on YouTube and listen to them, or I'll go listen to Glennon Doyle. I'll just feed my mind. So I think it's really important to just don't worry about it. Take the next step, read, do whatever it is to fill your mind and your heart with some really good stuff, however that looks like, by yourself, with somebody else, out in nature, whatever. Just keep taking the positive steps and then let it go. And then have faith. And it'll come up. Like it doesn't come up anymore, but it did come up for my friend. But like I said, she wasn't doing the things you needed to do to stay sober. But yet she got cocky. Like I'd be like, 5 years and she'd be like, what, 25? She'd be like, oh, you're still young. I used to get so pissed. I'd be like, I'm not 5 years. Jesus Christ. When are you ever going to let me be like, old enough, but they're older than me. So anyways, and they really struggled to come back. It was really hard. Now that was 2 months ago and they're like 3.5 months sober. But I'll tell you what got in their way: pride. Pride still does get in the way and I love this person. They're a very good friend, but this is what I witnessed. And I don't like how AA puts fear in you around it. I love how TLC, there's such positivity, it's focused on positivity. I'm not putting down AA. That's been a rock for me, but it's all who you are and what you want to focus. But I think you just got to keep feeding your heart and your soul with some good stuff, good people, and then just trust.
Sherri, do you ever get that feeling?
Oh, hell
like,
yes, every day.
So how do you deal with that?
I heard, I think it was a lady named Jennifer a couple of months ago. She said on a TLC meeting that whenever she got those thoughts and those cravings, that she played dead. So that's what she does. She plays dead. She said, I just sit still for like 90 seconds and then it passes. And I thought that's pretty good advice. And what Kate is saying is so true too. Just that little bit of connection, just any bit of connection, and keep doing the things that have worked so far. Maria, our friend in TLC, who's been sober for 35 years, says she still needs this. You know, she still has to be involved with talking about this every day and being around other people and, you know, in her case, mentoring a lot to stay that way. She said, I know I'm not going to drink, but I could if I don't do the work. And she keeps doing the work, 35 years.
I did call, and that's actually makes me feel good, because I did call some people and just say, what's wrong with me? I'm in a
Yeah.
perfect scenario, and why is this damn, but yeah, it wasn't anything to act on. It wasn't a craving. It was just that damn voice that popped up. That's, I guess,
Yeah.
just trying anything and everything to get me to give it more
Yeah.
alcohol, which didn't happen. But so I guess I did the right things. I made some phone calls. Todd, did you ever deal with those?
Yeah, I mean, but it's nothing too, like, physically, nothing too overwhelming where I had an overwhelming physical desire to drink. I do remember I was on a trip in Portland. This was probably 6 months in, and I was feeling pretty good, and I was walking around the streets of Portland, and business trips were always big drinking events for me because I was by myself and I could drink how I wanted to, and wasn't really worried about drinking on this trip, and hadn't really, I thought I was fine, and I out of nowhere, I mean, I had this. I was kind of found myself looking out for a bar to duck into, and I happened to be standing next to an ice cream shop. And I walked inside the ice cream shop and I ordered ice cream, and I sat down and I read a book for like a half hour and ate ice cream. And that kind of stuck with me because I was like, damn, that came out of nowhere. And so it was kind of an eye opener. I thought, okay, maybe this stuff can come out of nowhere when you least expect it. But I haven't had too many of those. But I would say what you experienced, Jeff, is absolutely normal. And it's, instead of focusing on the why did this happen, I would focus on the, well, it didn't stick around very long, and you handled it and it went away. And next time it'll stick around for even less time, and you'll handle it and it'll go away. And then next time it may not even happen at all. I think
Yeah.
I think it's just part of the process. And that will yes, it will happen again, but it will happen with less frequency, and it will happen with less intensity.
Well, I more laughed at it than I didn't fight it. I didn't fight with it. I just kind of laughed at it and just said, no, that ain't gonna happen. Nice try. But it just cracks me up that voice is still there. Mark, do you ever deal with those kind of?
Sure, but what I'm learning, and I've been talking to you about this, Jeff, is I've been doing a lot of meditation through the Waking Up app, and he's teaching me to, that, and I'm learning that these moments, these thoughts, I can't control them. They come into my head. You couldn't control it coming into your head. You just notice that it's there. You don't know where it came from. Well, sometimes these thoughts, we don't know where they come from, but I'm learning that I can sit there and objectively look at this thought and say, do I need to give it attention? I'm learning that my life is going to be full of temptations and full of triggers, and I'm going to see and I'm going to smell and I'm going to be presented with things in my life, and that's just what my life, that's what life is. My life is going to be this series of events where I have to push through, and figure out how to do it. So yes, I do get thoughts that come into my head. I don't know where they come from. They're not always about drinking. They're just random things sometimes, and I'm learning to not go down rabbit holes with them, to not just sit there and say, whoa, let's expand on this thought here. No, I'm learning to just push them away and not really give them, the time of day anymore. And like Todd was saying, it's a practice. It doesn't just happen. I'm learning how to do it, and it's going to be something I have to deal with daily for however long I'm here. But I'm coming to grips with that life is just going to be a series of these events and these thoughts that come into my head. And I have to learn how to deal with that. And that's what I'm trying to do today, is to not act on those thoughts that could destroy me, anymore, but I'm not upset when they come into my head anymore either. I'm not sitting there saying, why me? Why is this happening to me? No, it's just like, okay, I'm thinking about it. Do I need to keep thinking about it? No, but it's a daily thing. I have to practice it.
That's a great point. All of you, I guess, kind of goes against how I've been running with this, but I think maybe I've been focusing on trying to analyze the why, and who cares why, which is true.
Right.
It doesn't matter why. Focus on just let it go. Letting it, not the origin, more focus on how I handle it, I guess, is maybe the focus. And that probably frees me up from a lot of, I'm always trying to figure out why. I always want to know why.
It's
maybe
control.
because I'm such a masterful degreed engineer, which
Well,
I did pass engineering, but
I think we want to know why, because we think we can control it if we think about it. It's like, analyzing something. Why have that? And like next time we can control it. There's no way we can't. It's just our brain.
but Kate,
I understand. I have the same brain, but here's a suggestion that I try to do. There's 2 prayers that are really helpful: help and thanks. Help in the morning, thanks at night. So when I have something, because I deal with the sugar, I'm doing a good job thanks to TLC, but I go help. And what my angels have told me was like, okay, we can help you with this, but you got to use your personal power. I'm like, okay, I'll use my personal power. So when they, like today, I want to do something, they were like, nah, it's not such a good idea. Why don't you go to the juice store and get the juice instead of thinking, oh, McDonald's smoothie is really delicious. They're like, no, drive the extra 2 miles, get the kale octopus. Oh shit, that's right. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just said, help, I listen, I just pay attention, and it can just be like help and then just wait.
well,
I hear
here's,
you. I'm with
no,
you.
you're right, but here's an example then to back what I'm saying. If I'm angry at Todd, I can just let it go, but I'm not fixing why I'm angry at him. So, but for me to not just let it go and just try and forget that I'm angry about him, if I can figure out what it is about Todd that has me upset, is it me, is it him, whatever the case may be, then I can fix it. And now I don't have to worry about that emotion that normally I'm so pissed off at Todd, I need a beer. If I can fix that thing that's causing me to feel that way, then so that's probably where my motive is on that.
Yeah, I think with feelings, like one of the best things I ever learned was that every feeling was okay and I just had to feel it. Sometimes if I have anxiety and I will get it, I will lay on the couch and let it just take over me. I, like Sherri was saying, or was it Mark? Like just play dead. I think it was Sherri. So one of the most important things that I've learned is that I have feelings, they're all okay, and I just have to feel them. I gotta sit down, I gotta let it go through me. So that's the how for me, but I still analyze. I'm with you, Jeff. I know I still do it, but that's what I try to do. I
just feel if I don't fix it, it's going to come back,
right.
Which I still believe to a degree. So,
of course.
Yeah. Well, anyone have any closing comments? You guys are all awesome. Lee had to bolt out for work, but
this is all the work, Jeff. Like everything that you're doing, that I see you doing in your life, every single thing you're doing is the work that's going to help you with what you're talking about. It's not, there's not one thing you have to do to fix what you were just talking about. It's the whole conglomeration of everything that your life is today.
Totally.
It's all put together. It's all that together, and everybody sees it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have never been this happy since I can remember.
Yeah, well, us too.
That's one thing I'm always tweaking and wanting, but don't take my questioning. Don't let that damper one bit that I'm the happiest I've been ever. I can't even, I had given up on being happy that wasn't in my cards 2 years ago. I just accepted that those days, that was for someone else. All I could do was survive. And that's been, one of the countless freaking miracles or blessings, whatever you want to say, that sobriety's given me. So anyways, you guys are fantastic. Thanks so much. Stay on for a minute and I'll hand out the parting gifts for everyone for being here. Mark, yours will be a head of lettuce. Kate, you'll get something green, kale or something like that. I think Todd and Sherri look like they enjoy living. And Todd still has the picture behind him where he was arrested at that game for intoxicated running naked onto the field with a football. So at least that's
Yeah.
how that's the story that I like.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone. Have a great one. And we've got Danita on Thursday night, which is going to be awesome. And then Saturday morning, Kate, I'm going to butcher her last name pronunciation, Vitella, who's TLC, or she's going to be on Saturday morning, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. So we got some good stuff coming up. Thanks everyone. You guys have a great night and we will talk to you soon. See ya.